All right, this worksheet is determining the equation of a parabola. So what you need to be able to do is not just draw a parabola given an equation, but also find an equation given a parabola. So you need to be able to do the two. So be able to go from a quadratic to a parabola and from a parabola to a quadratic. Okay, so that's basically what this worksheet is asking you to do. Now, you had a similar question to this on your first test, and you did it in turning point form. Okay, so if you can remember the very last question you did, it said put it in turning point form. So there's your turning point form. Here we have factorized form. Now, I'm just going to show you first the turning point form just to rejig your memory, and then we're going to go on to factorized form, and I'm going to show you how they're both correct. Okay, so even though the quadratics can look different, they're actually the same. They're just written differently, basically. Okay, so for this, for your turning point form, remember the first thing you would do is substitute in your turning point. So we're looking at A here. Your turning point is 2, -4. So that means your value of H is 2 and your value of K is -4. Then the next thing you would do is substitute in a point. Now we have 2 points here, 0, 0 and 4, 0. You can't use the point you've already got. It just won't work for you. Now 0, 0 is easier than any other point. Okay, so let's substitute in 0. So when we put 0 here, we're just left with -2. So -2 squared is 4. So I have 4a minus 4. And you get a equals 1. So your equation, no, I should write that over here because I'm going to, write it over here. Sorry. So we get y equals, a is 1, so we don't need to write 1 there. Okay, so we have y equals x minus 2 squared plus 4. Now, remember that, and I'll have to remember that. Or remember it anyway because it's written here. Now, your other form, in factorized form, let's write the equation. Whoops, x plus c. Now, these factors come or help us decide on what our x-intercepts are. So here's our x-intercept. We already know that's 0, 0 and that's 4, 0. So the first one is going to be x plus 0. And the second one, because this is a positive 4, your c has to be a -4. Because when I let x minus 4 equals 0, I get x equals 4. So that's how we work. So we're kind of working backwards to how we worked before. All right, and I'm just going to tidy that up because we don't usually leave things with x plus 0. So I'm going to have ax, x minus 4. Now I can substitute in another point. Because I've already used my x-intercepts, I have to use this turning point now. So I've got -4 equals 2a, 2 minus 4. And let's just tidy that up. 2a times -2, -4 equals -4a, and a equals 1. And let's just write that over here. So we've got y equals, remember a was 1, so we don't write that in. So I'm going to substitute into here, x minus 4. Okay, so we had two equations. This one was in factorized form, the other one was in turning point form. So I'm going to write them both again. Hopefully I can remember. So factorized form and turning point form. Okay, so they're, if I've remembered them correctly, should be the same graph. So let's graph them. Okay, so let's go back. Delete what we had before. So the first one was x. I think your calculator likes the times, so put the times there if it's not working for you. X minus 4. And we might need to change our window, so let's go back to my window. And I'm going to make everything just 10. Okay, and tab, put in the next one, y equals x minus 2 squared minus 4. And should have been there in red. Okay, so they're both there. You just can't see it. I was hoping it would actually draw it in. Oh, actually, no, that's why it didn't work, because I put a Y there. Silly me. Okay, there it is. So you can see the red and the blue. So if I go back, I wonder, see, there's one, there's the other. So you can see they're exactly the same. They're just written differently. And then another way you could write it is actually in expanded form. So if I just close my calculator, so expanded form, if I was to expand either of these, doesn't matter which one, I think the first one's easier. So we would get y equals x times x is x squared, x times -4 is -4x. So all the same. Okay, so there's many different ways, or three different ways that you can write your quadratic. All right, let's have a look at another one. So I'm going to skip the positives, move on to a negative one. So, or I'm not going to do J, because J it goes through 0, 0. So it's not going to make anything more complicated for us. All right, question K is good because there's no turning point for this one. So we can't use the turning point, okay? So even though for question A we could use the turning point because it stated the turning point, for K we can't use the turning point. So we do have to use the factorized form. So I'm going to write the equation in factorized form first. It doesn't matter what letters you use either. I use A, B, and C. Yeah, there's all different letters you can use. Okay, so here we've got x-intercept at -2, so this must be x plus 2. Remember, when you solve this, when you let it equal 0, that's where the -2 comes from, so you're kind of working backwards. And then we've got x minus 6 here. All right, substitute in a point. So I've used my x-intercepts. I can't substitute them in, but I have here my y-intercept. So my y-intercept is at 12, y equals 12, and then 0, 0 for x. Okay, so 12, 2 times -6 is -12. Oh, they're all going to be, I wonder if they're all 1 or -1 in this case. Okay, actually I'm going to talk in a sec. So I'll just write the equation. Okay, so there's your final equation. One mistake, one maybe of many mistakes that people make, is they say, oh, this is a negative parabola. That means I should make my A negative here. But the problem with doing that is you're not going to get a negative here. Okay, so if I had a positive one here, if you went back and put in a positive one here, you might forget that it should be a negative. Okay, so just leave A as A. A can represent both positive and negative numbers. You don't need to put a negative sign in front of it to make it negative. It will turn out to be negative anyway, just like we've done here. All right, let's do one more, just because we can. And I'm going to do the very last one because it looks like fun. Okay. Y equals, oops, don't forget the A, x plus B, x minus, plus C, sorry. Okay, so let's substitute them in. So we've got -√10 here, so I'm going to do plus √10, and then x minus √10. And what does this look like? Okay, what does this expanded form look like? The difference of perfect squares, doesn't it? But let's see if it turns out that way. So let's substitute in this 10 as our x and y values. So 10a, then we've got √10, and then -√10. √10 times √10 is just 10, but it's -10 because it's a negative sign. So a equals -1. So I get y equals x plus √10, x minus √10. Now if you wanted to, you could just write that as x squared oops, sorry, negative x squared plus 10. And you would have the same answer. Okay, so if you expanded that, you would get this. Hold on, didn't put my negative in front. There we go. Good stuff. Now, there's no answers, I know, but for all of these, you can check your answer just by putting it on your calculator. So once you get your quadratic, graph it. Does it look the same? Yes, it does. Then move on. Now, if you are having trouble with any of these, please ask for help. But once you get the hang of it, perhaps just try a few of them. And then if you feel confident, then you can move on. Okay, good stuff. Bye-bye.